Good morning, and guess what? It's Friday again. I love Fridays. It's May 20, what? 2nd, I think. And we're continuing in the book about George MacLeod, who helped to rebuild the Abbey, helped to create the movement to rebuild the Abbey on the island of Iona in Scotland. And I failed to, in case somebody joined us yesterday and doesn't know what's going on, I just had recapped the day before about this church taking a trip to Scotland in 1997, which helped to shape the name of this church and many things about it. And so it's been fun to do a little history about the island of Iona, which was one of the stops that the group made in the early days of the formation of this congregation. So I am continuing in the chapter 12 of Romans. I'll be reading verses 4 through 8 of chapter 12 in the Message. And the Apostle Paul, of course, is speaking to the church in Rome. In this way, we are like the various parts of a human body. Each part gets its meaning from the body as a whole, not the other way around. The body we're talking about is Christ's body of chosen people. Each of us finds our meaning and function as a part of his body. But as a chopped off finger or a cut off toe, we wouldn't amount to much, would we? So since we find ourselves fashioned into all these excellently formed and marvelously functioning parts in Christ's body, let's just go ahead and be what we were made to be, without enviously or pridefully comparing ourselves with each other, or trying to be something we aren't. If you preach, just preach God's message, nothing else. If you help, just help, don't take over. If you teach, stick to your teaching. If you give encouraging guidance, be careful that you don't get bossy. If you're put in charge, don't manipulate. If you're called to give aid to people in distress, keep your eyes open and be quick to respond. And if you work with a disadvantage, don't let yourself get irritated with them or depressed by them. Keep a smile on your face. Good words for this day. And I'm going to be reading a little more in Philip Newell's book, Listening for the Heartbeat of God. By the time MacLeod was in his 90s, many, especially the younger generations, revered him as something of a saint. In 1988, when he visited the newly built MacLeod Center for International Reconciliation on Iona, MacLeod entered the community room, stood still, and began to recite the Lord's Prayer. Those with him, seeing the great man praying in the center named after him, bowed their heads respectfully. But after the second phrase, MacLeod stopped, looked around him, and said, "I was only testing the acoustics." Even to the end, he did not want his spirituality to be regarded as a pious practice separating him from life and from others, but rather as a search for God in the whole of life, in everything God said and did. Who was this man? Was he just an exceptional visionary? Or can he be seen to stand in the long tradition of Celtic spirituality that stretches back to Pelagius in the 4th century and includes a medieval mystic like John Scotus Eriugena, and the centuries-old prayers of the people of the Western Isles? Celtic spirituality can be described as a way of seeing. What MacLeod shared with the stream of spirituality that had appeared early in British Christianity was rejected by the church at large and then resurfaced again and again in the Celtic world over the centuries, was its way of seeing or listening for God within the whole of life. One of MacLeod's best-known prayers was modeled on the ancient breastplate hymn of St. Patrick, in which Christ is seen in all things. you have heard this prayer probably in the form of a hymn. We have it in the form of a hymn in our new hymnal, and also occasionally as a benediction in this congregation. But I would like to use this as our closing prayer today. So let us turn to God in prayer. Christ above us, Christ beneath us, Christ beside us, Christ within us. Invisible we see you, Christ above us. With earthly eyes we see above us clouds or sunshine, gray or bright. But with the eye of faith we know you reign, instinct in the sun ray, speaking in the storm, warming and moving all creation, Christ above us. Invisible we see you, Christ beneath us. With earthly eyes we see beneath us stones and dust and dross. But with the eyes of faith we know you uphold. In you all things consist and hang together. The very atom is light energy. The grass is vibrant. The rocks pulsate. All is in flux. Turn but a stone and an angel moves. Underneath are the everlasting arms. Unknowable we know you, Christ beneath us. Inapprehensible we know you, Christ beside us. With earthly eyes we see men and women, exuberant or dull, tall or small. But with the eye of faith, we know you dwell in each. You are imprisoned in the dope fiend and the drunk, dark in the dungeon, but you are there. You are released, resplendent in the loving mother, the passionate bride, and in every sacrificial soul. Inapprehensible we know you, Christ beside us. Intangible we touch you, Christ within us. With earthly eyes we see ourselves, dust of the dust, earth of the earth. But with the eye of faith we know ourselves all girt about of eternal stuff, our minds capable of divinity, our bodies groaning, waiting for the revealing, our souls redeemed, renewed. Intangible we touch you, Christ within us. Christ above us, beneath us, beside us, within us. What need have we for temples made with hands? And we close today with the prayer that Christ taught his disciples. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May you know Christ above you, beneath you, within you, and all about you today.